Hi there and welcome. Behind me, well you can't see it, is Glastonbury Tor. I'm currently hiding, literally, I'm in the ditch because it's very windy and I feel it's important that I need to read what I need to read out in nature, and it is with the land. And also the phone is resting on a hawthorn tree, and the hawthorn trees are about boundaries, protection, and it's doorways to the other world. I'm also associated very much with the Fae, and we are in Glastonbury, which is also known as Avalon. Very magical place, and it's also in accordance with the Somerset zodiac. Glastonbury Tor is the head of the Phoenix, which is associated with Aquarius, and Aquarius is also the ruler of the zodiac. It's associated with truth, with authenticity. It's just went out of my head then, humanitarianism, community. It's and we are supposedly in the age of Aquarius, and in my my curiosity, I've been like, where does this age of Aquarius originate from? And it's come from back in the 1960s, and it's, where is it? A lady suggested the age of Aquarius, and then we've got that famous song by Fifth Dimension. And in accordance with the archetype of Aquarius and the seeking of truth, I've been also delving into the origins of certain myths and legends. And this goes down to the goddesses. This also goes down to words. Also, you've got the myth, the legends of the land, and there's also names. And it's like getting to the bare bottom of where does this come from. This is essentially what we have been doing as a collective, is getting to the bare bottom of things in searching with our psyche, with our getting to know our soul selves. So it's like digging into the truth. And the weekend I joined a certain group. Apparently we were supposed to be walking the ley lines in order to help heal the ley lines, because Glastonbury has become quite dark, and it has. This is what I've noticed. I've been living here for 4 months now, and I've been coming here since my awakening, since 2019. And it's been as a tourist, and it's a very different experience when you dip in and out of it, because you see the glamour of it, you see the front facade, the shop window, basically. You see the shop window, and you don't really see behind the scenes. When you live here, you see behind the scenes, and it has been an eye-opening and awakening in itself to see what actually goes on. And it's been scary. There's at one point where I had to leave for a couple of weeks because there was real genuine physical danger that was happening around me. And I've since come back, and I'd like reclaiming my space, and this is what we've been doing, reclaiming. I've noticed a certain theme with certain people. There's been this reclamation of self, but also reclamation of our security, our home. And this has been important, especially for me, because I've been homeless for this is the 3rd year, and this is my first proper home in 3 years, and it was heartbreaking to actually leave it because of the surroundings. But now it's like, well, no, I'm coming back to this. This is mine, and I've been reclaiming this space. And I actually, it's like, yeah, I do. I love it. This is mine, and it's been a long time coming, and I am so grateful. So anyway, I've seen also because I'm in a caravan, and I have seen the attitude of people, the residents, the people online especially as well, and also the council's reaction to the people who are on the streets and on the side of the street, which is apparently is illegal. And it's like, well, okay. Glastonbury has brought many pilgrims, a site of pilgrimage, a sacred place, and it's brought many travellers, But basically, at the core of it, there's also a lot of homeless people. It's quite surprising. If they haven't got a caravan, they're literally sleeping on the streets. I met quite a few of them when I first turned up. And it's been heartbreaking because also they're very talented spiritual people, you see. And I very naively thought that Glastonbury would be like welcoming in the spirituality, and it does in one sense if you have money. If you don't have money, then you're excluded from certain groups, you're excluded from certain modalities, but you also leave yourself vulnerable to certain dynamics and certain people who are of the darker persuasion, who will siphon the fuck out of you, basically. And from a practical, I want to say human materialistic, sort of like systemic point of view, there's been underhanded, emotionally manipulative and almost bullying tactics from the council. And it's been quite shocking in one respect, but it hasn't been shocking because it's not, it's something that I've come up against in Wales as well, which is part of the reason why I chose to leave my temporary accommodation safe space, and that is in, it's like it wasn't safe, and there was no support from the council. But I've also seen the council in Wales now put people in danger, and this is for what it seems across the board, you see. So I am amongst this minority. I want to say it's not a minority because it is a majority, because we have a housing crisis. There are many people who are homeless, and I assumed, because when you assume something, you make an ass out of you and me, that when I come to a spiritual hub, a spiritual place, the heart chakra of the UK, of the world, which is what they associate Glastonbury with, that there would be more heart people. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of light within the dark and what have you, there always is. But the spiritual bypassing of people has been horrendous. And like I said previously, unless you've got the money to pay for the healing, the therapy, the workshops, you're excluded. So we've got this hierarchical system that is going on within the spiritual community, and it comes under the guise of light work. We're doing our light work, we're doing our healing, we're providing a service. But this service comes with a price, a literal price, and it can be quite extortionate. And this also goes to the social media, on the digital, on the binary system that we share. online with the social media. So there's been that. So I turned up at this group because it was an invitation to walk the ley lines to help heal the Glastonbury, and it was that acknowledgement that there is the darkness. And I'm like, yes, finally, people are actually talking about it online within this light worker community. Okay, so I turned up, and first of all, the time was given wrong on the video. I didn't look underneath. I was like, oh, right, okay then. So I took, and being autistic, you take things literally, okay? No excuse, I know. I should have looked into the description. But I'm like, let's take this. It's an invitation to meet. And we walked the ley lines together. So I turned up an hour late, and I thought, right, do you know what, I'm still gonna go. So I met them at the top of the tour, and it was just right as everybody was going down. So I just slipped in. We went into the orchard, and my presence was recognised, but nobody really said anything. And I joined them in this meditation. And then because of the weather, they went off to the venue, and I had a lift from this woman, and I was talking to her, and it was very lovely lady. She's been through a lot as well, as all of us have. None of us are excluded from from the shit that goes on. It just comes at different stages, different lessons, etc. And we've all been healing. However, I mentioned the fact about the homelessness, and how, because recently the council have been putting notices on the caravans. A councillor went round a couple of weeks ago, and I had a chat with him, and he was saying that he wanted the best for the people. A couple of weeks later, there's notices going up on certain caravans. And it feels like betrayal, it does. And this is supposed to be a green man councillor, is it? In with a green man as well. So anyway, so I mentioned that to this lady, and she says, it's not your blueprint, it's their blueprint. And I'm like, right, okay, yeah, all right then, not get involved, yeah. But then I come away and I'm feeling confused, because she dropped me off at the venue, because they went, because of the weather, they went back to the venue. I said, you've all paid for this, haven't you? Yeah, she said. I said, I haven't paid for this. Oh, don't worry, you can pay for this later. I said, no. I said, I come here to walk the ley lines. So it was like I left, and it was out on a drama, and I just left. I returned back to my home. But I come away feeling very confused. And there's this awareness of this love and light, this high vibration situation where we're spiritually bypassing, basically, because they're on a lower frequency, and all the suffering is on a lower frequency, and we're here to anchor a higher frequency and not particularly get involved. We have been steered within a certain love and light spiritual community to ignore the suffering, to ignore the lower frequencies. Yeah, right. Everything is like I call it a seesaw. It's like, it's always two sides and everything, right? With social media and the news, for example, it is very much fear-based, and there's like attention grabbing, and it's teaching us, it's like, where do we want to put our attention? Okay, so there's that respect, but this, I feel, has also led onto the physical surroundings, because there are a lot of people that have been guided to ignore the suffering that's going on, to ignore the physical environment around them. But there's also, on that side, gaslighting, in whatever we're seeing in the external is a reflection of us. So if we're seeing war, if we're seeing homelessness, if we're seeing suffering, that is a wound within us that we have got to see. Again, there's a, yeah, okay then, right, what is this showing me? But it's on the other side, hang on a minute, the systems, the elite, the matrix, and all that we're being told has run the world for so long, has caused the suffering that we see in the external world. Yes, we can turn away from it from a social media point of view, but what about the result of it? We don't ignore our trauma, for example. We look into it. It's if we do ignore it, then it causes harm, it causes us pain, it causes illness. So what is the difference? If we want to take as within, so without, where's the difference? So if we're meant to embrace our own trauma because we know that it makes us ill, why aren't we being encouraged to embrace the trauma that we're seeing in the external world as a result of the powers that were and all the systemic abuse that is going on? So there's that, and people are being charged. We'll go back to that group, for example. It was an invitation to click onto a link to pay €88 to walk the land and heal the ley lines, and then go back to a venue. Yes, okay, right, you have to take in the insurance, the venue cost, and also the time of the people involved who are providing that. But for me, from a take it as it is black and white autistic thing, that invitation to heal the land was an invitation to come and walk and heal the land, but yet you had to pay for it, and that got me. So it set me on. I was very angry initially, but it's been an occurring thing for me for quite a few years in the healing spiritual journey. We've had to pay for everything. And I'm going to read out an essay that I have written, because it looks at many things. I'm just scratching the surface here and giving my personal experience on where this has come from. And then I'm going to read this. I've tried to balance it as much as possible, and also look at it from like a psychological point of view, but also a astrological point of view, a spiritual point of view too. So we've got a rounded way, and also social media. And there's talk of awakening, further awakening. This is where it come from. Where did the Great Awakening come from? And it happened in the 1700s. So I'm going to read this article, and I'm going to leave that there. And for me, it means a lot, because it takes away the anger that I have felt in the inequality that I have experienced within the spiritual community, online and in person. The damage that it has caused through false prophets and people who are still wounded themselves but think that they know it all, and I've gone in blindly. It's taught me discernment, it's taught me a lot of things. I'm very, very grateful. And it's also shown me how dangerous it can be, because it has nearly killed me. And not only have I been dealing with homelessness, but I've also been trying to recover from this harm that was caused through some very dark people. And it was using psychological abuse, it was emotional abuse, it was energetic abuse, spiritual abuse. So I speak from experience, and if this helps one person, it's 2022 then, if this helps one person in gaining discernment, acknowledgement, and even just to validate them, then it's worth it. It's worth it anyway, because I've seen things and it's helped me to see it in others and not go down the same path. But if it helps another person, so I said exposure is locked. Ooh, exposure is locked. Okay then. Ooh, that's interesting. Exposure is locked. Let's lock the exposure then. Right, here we go. Okie dokie. Right then. So I'm gonna hopefully post this in the description box, so you've got the written of it. It's long. Sit down, take a cuppa, cheers. I recommend hot chocolate too. It's very good for calming. Chocolate understands, you see. And I met a lady once who said, I love this earth. She said, it's the only planet that has chocolate. I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's true. Right then. Okie dokie. I got Mama Cacao, because all chocolate comes from the cacao bean, the originator cacao, and Mama Cacao opens the heart too. So we've got Mama Cacao. So yeah, okie dokie. Right then. The Paywalled Soul. How digital awakening taught us to look away. Light becomes false when it requires blindness. There is a famous saying that has rapidly defined our modern era. The only difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months. Nowhere is this truer today than in the Wild West of modern spirituality. Over the last few years, millions of people have felt a profound organic pull towards something deeper, a desire to understand their souls, to look to the cosmos, and to make sense of a world that feels increasingly fractured. We were told we were entering a collective Great Awakening, a glorious shift into the age of Aquarius. But if Aquarius demands absolute, uncompromising truth, we must be willing to apply the highest tool of human consciousness to our own spiritual landscape: reason. When we look closely at the architecture of the modern spiritual movement, an unsettling question emerges. Have we genuinely awakened, or have we simply been redirected into a more sophisticated digital holding pen for human consciousness? The astronomical glitch, mapping a grid, missing the stars. To understand how deep the potential deception goes, we have to look at the literal sky. Western astrology inherits elements from Babylonian and Hellenistic traditions, but modern tropical astrology fixes the zodiac to the seasonal equinoxes rather than the shifting constellations. Excuse me. Tropical astrology locks the zodiac to a fixed mathematical grid based on Earth seasons, starting at 0 degrees of Aries at the spring equinox. But the physical universe is not static. Due to a literal wobble in the Earth's axis, known as the precession of the equinoxes, the background stars shift by 1 degree every 72 years. Because of this 2,000-year drift, the mathematical grid used by the modern Western astrology apps has entirely detached from the actual physical sky. Consider the two biggest pillars of modern awakening narrative: the Great Conjunction of 2020, tropical astrologers celebrated Jupiter and Saturn aligning at 0 degrees Aquarius, proclaiming it was the official dawn of the new age. Yet, if you walked outside with a telescope and looked at the actual physical stars, the planets didn't align in Aquarius at all. They aligned in the constellation of Capricorn. And then we got the Pluto shift. We are told today that Pluto's entry into Aquarius mirrors its position during the American Civil War. And in reality, during the 1860s, the actual physical planet Pluto was moving through the stars of Aries and Taurus. Tropical astrology maps a symbolic seasonal zodiac rather than the current visible constellation sky. That does not automatically invalidate it as a symbolic language, but it does matter when influencers present it as a literal cosmic astronomy. This distinction is vital, as the collective often says all is mind. Aquarius is an air sign, the sign of intellect, systems, geometry and technology. If a collective humanity is pouring billions of gigajoules of mental energy focus and belief into an abstract mathematical grid that does not align with the literal heavens, whose grid are we actually feeding? This raises a difficult question. Are some forms of modern awakening teaching us to mistake symbolic grids for direct relationship with reality? And then we've got the needle's eye, the lockdown, and the lower astral. To see how this grid may have been amplified, we only have to look back to 2020. During the lockdowns, humanity was entirely isolated from physical reality, stripped of community, and shoved through the digital needle's eye, social media. Whether by design or by algorithmic accident, 2020 created the perfect conditions for disembodied spirituality to spread. Simultaneously, algorithmic engines pushed a massive explosion of new age content, internet channelers and pop astrology. At a time when human beings were at their most vulnerable, terrified and disconnected from the earth, the digital matrix handed them a beautifully packaged alternative reality. But look at the mechanics of the delivery system. In spiritual language, this resembles the lower astral: compulsion, lust, obsession, fear, envy, projection, and disembodiment. In psychological language, it is an attention economy optimized for dopamine loops, identity fixation, parasocial dependency, outrage, sexual stimulation, and dissociation. By wrapping these addictive, disembodied digital habits in the vocabulary of spirituality, ascension, and starseed timelines, a perfect trap was sprung. People believed they were evaluating their consciousness, when in reality they were spending hours a day staring at a glass screen, operating entirely within the lower astral realm of digital addiction. True spiritual awakening reduces our absolute interconnected. Not reduces. True spiritual awakening realizes our absolute interconnectedness. Yet the algorithmically driven awakening heavily pushed binary separation. Low vibe versus high vibe, awakened versus asleep. It weaponized our natural spiritual instincts to create profound, matrix-level tribal warfare. This is not to say that every online teacher is false, every spiritual community is corrupt, or even digital tool is a trap. Many people found genuine language, comfort, and community online when the physical world became unbearable. The danger is subtler. When spiritual hunger is mediated almost entirely through platforms built to capture attention, the sacred can become indistinguishable from content. The love and light bypass. When high frequency becomes moral escape. Perhaps the most dangerous feature of digital ascension movement is not to its darkness, but its obsession with light. Across online spiritual spaces, seekers are constantly encouraged to stay in a high frequency, protect their vibration, shift timelines, and avoid anything that feels heavy, painful, or dense. On the surface, that sounds empowering. After all, no one wants to drown in fear, outrage, or despair. But somewhere along the way, emotional regulation became spiritual avoidance. The love and light movement has taught many people to mistake discomfort for misalignment. If suffering appears in the world, we are told not to look too closely. It is not our timeline. It is their soul contract. It is their karma. It is a reflection of our own unhealed shadow. The result is a spirituality that speaks endlessly of compassion, while training its followers to disassociate from the suffering directly in front of them. This creates a profound contradiction. The modern light worker is supposedly here to be of service, to anchor love, and to assist humanity's awakening. Yet, the same digital ascension culture often teaches them to avoid the very realities that service would require them to face: poverty, homelessness, addiction, grief, with war, exploitation, loneliness, and despair. Take homelessness as one simple example. A person sleeping in the doorway is not merely a low frequency timeline. They are not simply a mirror of our unhealed scarcity wound. They are a human being living inside a web of material, psychological, economical, and social conditions. To spiritualize their suffering into a lesson, a vibration, or a timeline is not enlightenment. It is abandonment dressed in spiritual language. This is where the digital awakening becomes most dangerous. It does not only detach us from the physical sky, it detaches us from the physical world. It encourages us to scroll past suffering, mute discomfort, and follow density, and call the resultant numbness peace. But peace without relationship is not enlightenment, it is insulation. True spiritual awakening does not mean staring into darkness until we would collapse. But neither does it mean floating above the world in a curated high-frequency detachment. Real light does not look away from suffering. Real light reveals what has been hidden, sits beside what has been abandoned, and refuses to call avoidance ascension. Light becomes false when it requires blindness. The great story of this modern spiritual movement, the great irony of this modern spiritual movement is that while it heavily preaches individual sovereignty, it has quietly engineered its own class of gatekeepers. Historically, alternative spiritual movements critiqued traditional religions for selling salvation and hoarding knowledge. Yet today, the New Age industry has recreated the exact same power dynamics under the guise of an enlightened marketplace. We are witnessing the rise of a new priesthood. When a massive wave of censorship barred free speech on mainstream platforms, truth seekers and spiritual leaders migrated to Patreons, Substacks, and YouTube members only sidebars. While content creators have every right to earn a living, the unintended consequence has been the paywalling of the absolute. We have traded the medieval Catholic Church selling indulgences for an internet influencer selling access to the divine. The narrative has become profoundly predatory. You are a divine, sovereign aspect of Source, but if you want to activate your DNA, heal your trauma, or understand the true timeline, you must pay thousands of dollars for a spiritual coach or a high-ticket masterclass. When anyone points out this deep cognitive dissonance, they are instantly gaslit with corporate spiritual jargon. They are told they have a scarcity mindset or a money block. We are told that money is just energy. Yet these leaders demand that energy exclusively in cold, hard currency to fund their own luxury lifestyles. They look down on the corrupt financial systems of the global elites while using those exact same hyper-capitalistic, multi-level marketing tactics to monetize the human soul. This infiltration of the false light goes even deeper into the realm of the physical experiences, particularly the community's obsession with plant medicines and psychedelics. Altered states can make people more emotionally open, symbolically receptive, and suggestible. In safe, ethical contexts, this may support healing. In exploitative or poorly held contexts, it can deepen dependency, implant narratives, and bind a seeker more tightly to a group, shaman, or spiritual authority. The visions of healing and geometric light they experience can become a Trojan horse, returning them to physical reality, not with true sovereignty, but with a deep parasocial dependency on a shaman, a coach, or a group identity. In the 1700s, the Georgian era, the explosion of Freemasonry shook society because it challenged the absolute monopoly the church had on human spirituality. The Masons taught deeply about using reason and intellectual geometry to smooth out the rough stone of the human soul. They sought truth outside of established dogmatic systems. Perhaps that is exactly what we are being called to do today. If the forces in power understand astrology, and history shows that the rulers, kings, and priests always have, then pushing a manufactured, idealized, feel-good version of a spiritual awakening through algorithms was the ultimate masterstroke. It created a beautifully lit distraction to keep us from looking at the raw data. It hijacked an organic soul revolution and turned it into a paywalled online subculture. The real awakening then isn't waiting for a planet to hit a specific degree on a Western astrological app. The real awakening is realizing how easily our spiritual instincts can be commodified, digitalized, and used to keep us asleep. The real awakening is not the rejection of spirituality, astrology, technology, or altered states. It is the restoration of discernment, the ability to tell the difference between direct contact with reality and systems that monetize our longing for it. It is time to look past the digital grid, put down the screens, and look not only into the true sky, but at the world directly in front of us, our streets, our neighbours, our communities, our wounded human family. If Aquarius is truly the sign of community, humanitarianism, truth, and collective evolution, then we cannot claim to be entering the age of Aquarius while ignoring the very people Aquarius asks us to remember. We cannot preach unity while dismissing suffering as not our timeline. We cannot call ourselves light workers while refusing to look at the shadows cast across our own towns and cities. We cannot ascend by abandoning the human. Um, by abandoning the human. The truth doesn't require an algorithm, a subscription, or a guru's to feed it to you. It requires you to step out of the maths, ground into physical reality, apply your own reason, and reclaim your absolute, gate-capped sovereignty, not as an escape from the world, but as a return to it. Because if awakening does not bring us back to each other, then what exactly are we awakening into? Thank you for listening, and I do ask that if this resonates, please like, please share. This is important to me, I feel, and yeah, it is important. And if you feel it can help somebody or it validates you or anything, please share. Saying that, it's also taking a look at self, taking a look at our immediate community, immediate environment. What can we do in this now moment to help? And it doesn't have to be going off into a soup kitchen. It can be just being there for somebody, because that means a lot. Believe me, it does. Right. Thank you so much for listening, and you take care. Love you loads.